Life is unpredictable. One day everything feels stable and under control, and the next it can feel like the entire world is collapsing around you. Maybe you will experience that sudden phone call that changes everything. Maybe you will had a dream fall apart right in front of you. Or maybe day by day you've been quietly carrying a weight so heavy that it feels impossible to move forward. If you've ever found yourself in that place where life feels too hard, too painful, too overwhelming, you are not alone. Every single person, no matter how successful, strong, or confident they appear on the outside, has faced moments when life tested them to their very core. And in those moments, the real question isn't, why me? But rather, how do I find the strength to keep going? Think about it. What separates the people who crumble under pressure from those who rise above it? What allows some to take their darkest pain and transform it into their greatest source of strength? The answer is to luck, and it is about being born with some special gift. It's about cultivating an inner resilience, a secret power that lives inside each of us. But herein the truth most people don't to talk about. Strength is not something you find only when everything is easy. True strength is forged in the fire of adversity. It's built when life knocks you down, when you've stripped of everything familiar, and when you have no choice but to dig deep and discover who you really are. And maybe right now you're in that very season. Maybe you're facing heartbreak, financial struggles, health challenges, or a crushing sense of failure. Maybe you're asking yourself, how am I supposed to get through this? If that's you, I want you to pause for a moment and listen carefully. This video is for you. Because you already have what it takes to endure, to grow, and to rise stronger than ever before. You just need to uncover it. In this journey together, we are going to explore the secrets to staying strong when life gets hard. We will talk about the mindset shifts that change everything, the habits that help you regain control, and the inspiring real-life stories of people who turn their suffering into triumph. Most importantly, we will uncover the practical steps you can take starting today. They not only survive the hard times, but to use them as stepping stones toward becoming the strongest version of yourself. Imagine this. A storm hits, and while most trees snap under the pressure of the wind, the oak tree bends and sways but never breaks. Why? Because its roots run deep. Your inner strength works the same way. The storms of life will come. We can't control when or how, but we can control how we prepare, how we respond, and how deep our roots grow. This video isn't here to give you false promises. I'm not going to say life will suddenly become easy or pain-free. What I will say is this: you are capable of so much more than you realize. Inside of you is a reservoir of strength waiting to be unlocked, and by the end of this video you will walk away with the tools, the perspective, and the belief that no matter what life throws at you, you can stand tall. So, take a deep breath. Let's begin this journey together. Because the secret to staying strong isn't about avoiding the hard time. It's about learning how to face them, endure them, and come out on the other side more powerful than you ever imagined. Part 1. Understanding resilience, the foundation of strength. When we talk about staying strong in difficult times, there's one word that comes up again and again: resilience. But what does resilience really mean? Is it about being tough and never showing weakness? Is it about pretending that pain does to hurt? Not at all. Resilience is not about denying the reality of struggle. It is about how you choose to respond to it. At its core, resilience is the ability to bend without breaking, to adapt without losing yourself, and to keep moving forward even when the path ahead seems uncertain. Think of resilience as an inner muscle. The more you exercise it, the stronger it becomes. And just like a muscle, resilience isn't to build in comfort, it's developed through resistance. The myth about strong people. Therein, a common misconception that resilient people never feel pain, fear, or doubt. That is simply not true. Even the strongest among us feel broken at times. They cry, they struggle, they wonder if they can go on. The difference is they don't stay in that place. They allow themselves to feel, but they don't let those feelings define their entire story. They learn to rise despite the weight pressing down on them. Take a moment and think back to a time in your life when you faced something really hard. Maybe you lost someone you love. Maybe you failed at something you had worked so hard for. Maybe you hit rock bottom. At the time it probably felt unbearable, and yet here you are, you made it through. That's in resilience. Even if you did to recognize it back then, you already have proof that you can survive difficulty. Why the mind struggles with adversity. Our brains are wired for survival, not happiness. When something painful happens, the brain immediately looks for threats, magnifies the danger, and often traps us in cycles of negative thinking. This is why during tough times it feels like everything is spiraling out of control. Your mind tells you, this will never get better, you would never recover. But resilience is the counterforce. It's a quiet but powerful voice that says, this is hard but it won't to last forever. You've made it through before, and you will again. The components of resilience. Researchers and psychologists who study resilience often highlight a few key elements. Acceptance of resilient people don't waste energy denying the truth. They face it head on. This doesn't mean they like it, but they acknowledge it. A sense of purpose. They find meaning in the struggle, whether it's in learning, growing, or using their pain to help others. Flexibility. Instead of breaking down when plans fail, they adjust, adapt, and find new ways forward. Hope. They believe the future can be better, even when the present is dark. Notice something. None of these traits require perfection. They don't demand that you always feel strong. They simply ask you to keep going, even if it's in one small step at a time. The power of perspective. Imagine two people facing the exact same challenge, say, losing a job. One person sees it as the end of everything. I've failed, I've never recover. The other sees it as a painful but temporary setback. This is tough, but maybe it's also an opportunity to discover something new. Which person is more likely to recover faster? It's not about who's smarter or more talented. This about perspective. Resilience grows when we learn to shift our perspective from despair to possibility. Resilience is not born, it's built. Herein the most empowering truth. Resilience is not something you either have or don't have. It is a skill. And like any skill, it can be developed. Every time you face a challenge, you are given an opportunity to strengthen it. The more you practice resilience in small things, the more prepared you would be when big storms arrive. Think about athletes. They don't wait until game day to start training. They build their strength and endurance every single day, so that when the pressure is on, they're ready. Resilience works the same way. The daily habits you build, the mindset you choose, and the way you respond to smaller difficulties, each of it prepares you for the bigger tests of life. The foundation for what comes next. If part 1 was about acknowledging the pain and realizing you are not alone, part 2 is about understanding that your strength doesn't come from avoiding suffering. It comes from navigating through it. Resilience is the foundation of everything that follows. It's in the root system that allows you to withstand the storms and still grow. So the next time you find yourself in a dark season, I want you to remember this. Resilience isn't about never falling. It isn't about rising each time you do. It isn't about saying, yes, this hurts. Yes, I feel broken, but I am not finished. And once you truly grasp that resilience is something you can nurture and strengthen, you would begin to see adversity not only as a challenge, but as a chance to build a deeper, stronger, unshakable version of yourself. Part 2. The golden principles of staying strong in hardship. Now that we understand what resilience truly is, the next question becomes, how do we actually build it? What are the guiding principles that allow someone not just to survive, but to grow stronger through adversity? There are 5 golden principles, 5 anchors you can hold on to when the storm rages the hardest. These are not theories. They are practical, lived truths that people throughout history have used to endure unimaginable difficulties and come out on the other side transformed. Principle 1. Accept reality without resistance. The first principle of resilience is acceptance. When life throws something painful at us, our instinct is often to deny it, resist it, or wish it away. We think this shouldn't be happening. Why me? Why now? But the more we fight reality, the more we suffer. Acceptance does not mean you like what's happening. It does not mean you give up. It means you stop wasting energy denying the truth and instead focus on what you can actually do. Think about someone who loses their job. They could spend weeks in denial, replaying the unfairness of it all, or they could accept that it has happened and immediately begin searching for new opportunities. Acceptance clears the fog of denial and puts you back in motion. Principle high. Focus on what you can control. One of the most powerful lessons in hard times is this. You can't control everything, but you can always control something. You cannot control the economy. You cannot control other people's win actions. You cannot control whether storms come or tragedies strike. But you can control your thoughts, your effort, your habits, and the meaning you assign to what happens. Psychologists call this the circle of control. Strong people don't waste endless energy on things outside their circle. Instead, they pour their energy into what is within their reach, and that shift makes all the difference. When the world feels chaotic, ask yourself, What is one thing I can control right now? Maybe it's in your breathing. Maybe it's you choosing to exercise instead of lying in bed. Maybe it's in reaching out to one friend instead of isolating yourself. Small actions inside your circle of control build momentum and restore your sense of power. Principle by discipline over emotion. In the hardest seasons of life, motivation will not always be there. You want to always feel like getting up, moving forward, or taking care of yourself. That's why discipline is more important than emotion. Resilient people understand that emotions are temporary. You might feel hopeless today, but that doesn't mean you are hopeless. You might feel like quitting, but that doesn't mean you must quit. Discipline is the bridge between feelings and progress. Consider a professional athlete who trains every single day. Do you think they always feel like it? Of course not, but they show up anyway. And that consistency is what makes them strong. In hardship, discipline becomes your lifeline. Eating a small daily action, waking up, showering, journaling, working, reaching out, that keep you moving forward even when your heart feels heavy. Discipline says, I may not feel strong today, but I can act strong. And eventually your actions will pull your emotions back into alignment. Principle 4. Gratitude and positive focus. It may sound impossible to talk about gratitude when you are in pain, but gratitude is one of the most powerful tools for resilience. Why? Because it shifts your focus. Pain has a way of narrowing our vision until all we can see is what we lost. Gratitude reopens our eyes to what we still have. Even in the darkest moments, there is always something to be thankful for. A breath in your lungs, a friend who listens, a lesson learned, a chance to try again. Research shows that gratitude literally rewires the brain to look for positives instead of negatives. And when you are in a storm, that shift in focus can be the difference between despair and hope. You don't have to feel grateful for the hardship itself, but you can be grateful for the strength you are building through it. You can be grateful for the resilience being carved inside you. Gratitude is not about ignoring pain, and about refusing to let pain have the final word. Principle 5. Find meaning in the struggle. The final principle is perhaps the most true. Find meaning. Viktor Frankl, a psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor, famously wrote that those who survived the concentration camps were often those who found meaning in their suffering, whether it was the hope of seeing a loved one again, the drive to finish their life-in work, or the determination to tell the story so the world would remember. When you attach meaning to your struggle, it stops being just pain. It becomes a teacher, a sculptor, shaping you into someone wiser, deeper, and stronger. Maybe your hardship allows you to help others going through the same thing. Maybe it forces you to discover strength you never knew you had. Maybe it nudges your life toward a new purpose you would never have chosen otherwise. Meaning does still erase pain, but it redeems it. And that redemption gives you the courage to endure, bringing it together. Acceptance, control, discipline, gratitude, and meaning. These 5 principles are not quick fixes. They don't to remove hardship, but together they form a framework that allows you to stand firm when everything else feels shaky. Imagine them as 5 pillars. Each time life shakes you, you can lean on one of them. Sometimes you need acceptance most, sometimes discipline, sometimes gratitude. The more you practice, the stronger each pillar becomes until you find yourself standing not just unbroken, but unshakable. Part 3. Tools and daily habits. To train inner strength. Principles are powerful, but principles alone are not enough. Just like knowing the rules of fitness doesn't make you stronger until you actually train. Building resilience requires practice, and the good news is this: inner strength can be trained every single day through small, intentional habits. Here are some of the most effective tools and daily practices that will help you build unshakable mental resilience. 1. The morning foundation. Start with clarity. The way you begin your day often sets the tone for everything that follows. Attend why resilient people create morning rituals that ground them. Meditation or mindful breathing. 5 to 10 minutes. Sit quietly, close your eyes, and focus on your breath. This practice lowers stress, calms the nervous system, and strengthens your ability to stay centered even when chaos arises later in the day. Journaling. Write down your thoughts, your goals, or even just 3 things you were grateful for. Journaling helps clear mental clutter, gives perspective, and creates a record of growth. Physical movement. Whether it's stretching, yoga, or a short workout, moving your body releases endorphins and energizes your mind. These simple steps don't have to take more than 20 to 30 minutes, but they prepare you mentally and physically to face challenges with strength instead of stress. 2. Mindfulness throughout the day. Life challenges don't schedule themselves conveniently. Stress can hit you in the middle of a work meeting, during traffic, or in the silence of the night. That's why mindfulness isn't just a morning practice, it's a tool you carry with you everywhere. Whenever you feel overwhelmed, pause and ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? What can I focus on in this exact moment? Even something as simple as focusing on the sensation of your feet on the ground, or the rhythm of your breathing, can pull you out of spiraling thoughts and back into the present. Mindfulness gives you the space to respond with intention instead of reacting out of panic. 3. Power of micro habit, the 1% rule. One reason people give up on resilience building habits is that they aim too big, too fast. They expect overnight transformation, but strength, both physical and mental, grows gradually. The 1% rule is simple. Just improve by 1% each day. Do one small thing that makes you stronger. Read 5 pages of a book instead of trying to finish a chapter. Do 10 push-ups instead of an hour-long workout. Journal for 2 minutes instead of 20. Individually, these actions seem tiny, but over weeks and months they compound into massive change. Remember, small wins build momentum, and momentum creates resilience. 4. Reframe your story. One of the most powerful tools of resilience is the ability to reframe. Reframing means choosing how you interpret your story. For example, instead of saying, I failed, you could say, I learned what does to work, and that lesson is preparing me for success. Instead of thinking, I lost everything, you could reframe it as, this is my chance to rebuild on a stronger foundation. This is too about lying to yourself or sugarcoating reality. It ain't about shifting perspective so you don't get trapped in a narrative of hopelessness. As the saying goes, pain is inevitable but suffering is optional. Reframing helps you choose growth over despair. 5. The evening reset. Resilient people don't just start their day intentionally, they end it intentionally too. Before bed, take 10 to 15 minutes for an evening reset. Reflection. Ask yourself what went well today, what challenged me, what did I learn? Gratitude list. Write down at least one thing you're thankful for. Letting go. Release the days and mistakes. Tomorrow is a new opportunity. This practice clears mental clutter, lowers anxiety, and prepares you to rest deeply. A good night's rest is one of the most underrated tools for resilience. 6. Connection as a habit. Strength is not built in isolation. Make it a habit to check in with at least one supportive person each day. A text, a quick call, or a short conversation can remind you that you are not alone. Community creates accountability. It gives perspective, and often simply voicing what you're both going through makes the burden feel lighter. Remember, even the strongest trees grow in forests, not deserts. 7. Growth-oriented challenge. Finally, one of the best ways to train resilience is to intentionally step into small challenges, even when life is calm. By pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, you prepare yourself for the bigger storms. Try something new that scares you a little. Take on a project that feels slightly beyond your current ability. Practice saying yes to opportunities instead of letting fear control you. Each time you face discomfort voluntarily, you telling your brain, I can handle this. I am stronger than I think. That confidence becomes invaluable when real adversity arrives. Bringing it all together. Daily habits may sound simple, but don't underestimate their power when practiced consistently. They build a mental toughness, emotional balance, and spiritual grounding needed to face life's biggest challenges. Resilience is not a one-time decision. It's in daily practice. It's in choosing again and again to breathe, to reflect, to move, to reframe, to connect, to grow over time. These habits become part of who you are. They create a foundation so strong that when life shakes you, you may bend. Boo, you will not break. So start small, pick 1 or 2 habits from this list and practice them today. Because resilience isn't something you wait to develop when disaster strikes. It's something you build brick by brick every single day. Part 4. Inspiring stories of resilience. Principles and habits become even more powerful when we see them lived out in real lives throughout history. Countless people have faced unimaginable hardships, and yet they refuse to let those hardships define them. Their stories are reminders that resilience isn't just a concept, it's a choice, a way of life, and a path to transformation. Here are 4 stories of resilience that continue to inspire the world. Nelson Mandela. Freedom through endurance. Nelson Mandela spent 27 years in prison for standing against apartheid in South Africa. Imagine that, nearly 3 decades of your life taken away, locked in a small cell, forced to do hard labor, cut off from your family and the outside world. Most people would have broken. most would have become bitter, resentful, or hopeless. But Mandela chose differently. Instead of letting prison destroy him, he used it to strengthen him. He studied, he reflected, he disciplined his mind, he developed patience, and when he was finally released, he did to emerge seeking revenge. He emerged with forgiveness and vision. Mandela became the first black president of South Africa and a symbol of peace and reconciliation worldwide. His story shows us that resilience is not just about surviving, about transforming suffering into wisdom and leadership. Oprah Winfrey, from pain to purpose. Today, Oprah is known as one of the most powerful women in media, but her early life was filled with hardship. She grew up in poverty, faced abuse, and endured countless struggles that could have easily broken her spirit. But instead of letting her painful past define her, Oprah chose to rise above it. She leaned on her education, her talent for communication, and her determination to create a better life. She built her career step by step until she became a global icon of empowerment. What's most remarkable is how Oprah has used her platform not just for her own success, but to lift others up. She shares her story openly to remind people that your beginnings do not determine your destiny. Her resilience teaches us that the deepest pain can fuel the greatest purpose. Viktor Frankl, meaning in the midst of suffering. Viktor Frankl was a psychiatrist who survived the horrors of Nazi concentration camps during World War II. He lost his parents, his wife, and nearly everything he loved. The conditions were unimaginable: starvation, brutality, and death surrounding him daily. And yet, in the middle of this hell, Frankl discovered something profound. Even when everything is taken from us, one freedom remains: the freedom to choose how we respond. He observed that those who survived often had a sense of meaning, a reason to endure. The hope of reuniting with family, the drive to finish a life in work, or simply the decision to face suffering with dignity. After the war, Frankl wrote his famous book Mandarin's Search for Meaning, where he argued that the key to resilience is finding meaning in suffering. His story is proof that the human spirit can endure almost anything when it has a why to live for. Steve Jobs, failure as a stepping stone. Not all resilient stories come from war or prison. Some come from the battlefield of innovation and failure. Steve Jobs, co-founder of Apple, experienced both stunning success and crushing defeat. In 1985, he was fired from his own company, the very company he had built from the ground up. For many, that kind of humiliation would have ended their career. But Jobs decided to quit instead. He used that setback as a chance to grow. He founded NextD, invested in Psoy, and continued pursuing his passion for technology and creativity. Years later, he returned to Apple, transformed it, and built it into one of the most valuable companies in the world. Jobs' story reminds us that failure is not the end. In fact, it can be the very foundation for future success. See, we are willing to keep going. What do these stories have in common? Mandela, Oprah, Frankl, Jobs, they lived in different times, faced different challenges, and walked very different paths. And yet their stories share the same thread. They accepted reality instead of denying it. They focused on what they could control. They practiced discipline and vision. They found meaning in their struggles, and most importantly, they refused to give up. These stories remind us that resilience is not about being fearless. It's about moving forward despite fear. It's not about being unbreakable. It's about allowing the breaking to make you stronger. Your story is next. It's easy to admire these great figures and think they were special. I could never be like that. But the truth is, resilience is not reserved for world leaders or famous innovators. It lives in you too. Maybe your battle does to look like Manalaya prison or frankly camp. Maybe your struggle is quiet, fighting anxiety, rebuilding after a breakup, pushing through financial stress, or caring for someone you love. But make no mistake, your story of resilience is just as valuable, just as powerful, and just as capable of inspiring others. The world just needs stories of great leaders. It needs everyday heroes who show that even in the middle of ordinary struggles, extraordinary strength can be found. So when you feel like giving up, remember Mandela patience, Oprah and courage, Franklin's search for meaning, and Jobs' persistence. Let their stories remind you of this simple truth. Resilience is possible, transformation is possible, and greatness is born, not in comfort, but in struggle. Part 5. The power of connection and community. When life gets hard, our first instinct is often to retreat into ourselves. We isolate. We tell ourselves, I don't want to burden anyone, or nobody will understand what I'm going through. And yet countless studies and real-life stories prove the opposite. One of the greatest sources of strength is not found in isolation, but in connection. We were not built to carry it alone. Humans are social beings. From the beginning of history, survival has depended on our ability to cooperate, share, and support one another. While resilience begins with the inner decision to keep going, it is multiplied when we have people around us who lift us up. Think about it. A single piece of wood burns quickly, but when placed in a fire with many others, it burns brighter and longer. The same is true for our spirit alone. We may flicker and fade together. We can endure storms that would crush us individually. The science of support. Psychologists have found that people with strong social connections are not only happier, but also physically healthier. Supportive relationships lower stress, strengthen the immune system, and even increase life expectancy. One famous study from Harvard tracked participants for more than 75 years and discovered a clear conclusion. The quality of our relationships is one of the strongest portents of long-term happiness and resilience. Not money, not fame, not success, connection. This means that when you invest in community, you are not only strengthening your heart, but also your mind and body. Stories of strength through community. The AA movement, Alcoholics Anonymous, is built on the idea that people heal better together. Thousands of individuals struggling with addiction have found lasting recovery, not just through willpower, but through a circle of peers who understand, encourage, and hold them accountable. Natural disasters show the same truth. After earthquakes, hurricanes, or floods, the rebuilding process is rarely a solo act. Communities come together, strangers help strangers, and hope is reborn in the act of collective effort. These examples remind us that resilience is not only a personal skill, it is also a shared strength. Practical ways to build your circle of resilience. So how can you bring the power of community into your own life? Here are a few steps. Reach out before you need help. Don't wait for a crisis to build connections. Nurture your friendships, family bonds, and professional networks now. Find your tribe. Look for communities that share your values or struggles, whether that's in a support group, a faith community, or an online forum of like-minded people. Be willing to both give and receive. Resilience grows when we practice generosity, offer encouragement, but also allow yourself to be supported when you need it. Cultivate vulnerability. True connection doesn't come from pretending everything is fine. It comes when we are brave enough to say, I am struggling, and to let others meet us there. The ripple effect of connection. When you connect with others, you are not just helping yourself, you're also giving others the gift of your presence. Resilience becomes contagious. Your courage inspires theirs, their hope fuels yours. A single act of reaching out, a phone call, a kind word, a simple "I'm here for you," can change the trajectory of someone else's journey. In this way, resilience is never just personal, it is communal, generational, and world-shaping. A stronger together mindset. The truth is simple. You don't have to be strong alone. Strength shared is strength multiplied. And when life feels overwhelming, it may not be your inner fire that carries you forward. It may be the fire of those standing beside you. So ask yourself, who is in my circle? Who lifts me up? Who do I need to reach out to today? And equally important, whose life can I touch with encouragement right now? Because at the end of the day, resilience is not just about standing tall, about holding hands, standing together, and reminding each other that we are never truly alone. Part 6. Transforming pain into personal power. Pain is something we all wish to avoid. It arrives uninvited, through loss, betrayal, failure, or unexpected change. In a moment, pain feels like a weight pressing down on us, threatening to crush our spirit. Yet history, psychology, and lived experience reveal a surprising truth. Pain is not just an obstacle, it is also a teacher, a catalyst, and a source of inner strength. The dual nature of pain. There are two ways to respond to hardship. One path is resistance, denying, numbing, or running from discomfort. The other path is transformation, leaning into the pain, asking what it has to teach us, and using it as a stepping stone. The first path leads to bitterness. The second leads to growth. Pain does to automatically make us stronger. Growth happens only when we choose to face suffering consciously, with courage and reflection. Pain as a teacher. Every painful experience carries a lesson hidden within it. Loss teaches us appreciation. We begin to value moments in relationships more deeply when we know how fragile they can be. Failure teaches resilience. Each setback forces us to adapt, refine, and try again. Loneliness teaches connection. Only by feeling the ache of isolation do we learn the pricelessness of genuine relationships. Think of pain not as punishment, but as an invitation, not call to evolve into a stronger, wiser version of yourself, turning wounds into wisdom. Some of the most inspiring figures in history and modern times have transformed deep wounds into sources of power. Oprah Winfrey, who endured abuse and hardship as a child, turned her pain into empathy and became one of the most influential voices for healing and empowerment. Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor, transformed the unimaginable suffering of concentration camps into the philosophy of logotherapy, showing the world that meaning can be found even in the darkest moments. Their stories remind us that our scars do not diminish us. They testify to our survival and our capacity to rise above what tried to break us. Practical steps to transform pain. So how do you turn pain into power in your own life? Acknowledge it fully. Denial prolongs suffering. Healing begins with honesty, naming what hurts. Find the meaning. Ask, what can this experience teach me? How can it shape me for the better? Channel it into action. Many people use their struggles to fuel creative expression, advocacy, or service to others. Your story can inspire or protect someone else. Practice patience. Transformation takes time just as wounds heal slowly. So does the process of finding strength in adversity. The alchemy of pain. Think of pain as raw energy. On its own, it feels overwhelming, but when harnessed, that same energy can be redirected into determination, courage, and compassion. Just as pressure creates diamonds and fire refines gold, adversity has the potential to refine us into something stronger and more radiant. Closing reflection. You may not get to choose your pain, but you always get to choose your response. And in that choice lies your greatest power. Every hardship has the potential to either harden your heart or expand it. Every wound can either leave you broken or make you unbreakable. When you decide to transform pain into strength, you no longer see yourself as a victim of circumstances. You see yourself as the author of resilience, rewriting your story with courage and wisdom. So the next time life hurts, pause and remember. This is not the end. This is the beginning of a new, stronger you. Part 8. Conclusion and call to action. Life is not easy and it was never meant to be. Challenges, disappointments, and hardships are not detours on the road of life. They are the road. And yet, in walking through those storms, we discover a truth that no book, no lecture, no comfort zone could ever teach. Within each of us lies a strength far greater than we realize. We've explored together what resilience means, the golden principles that help us endure, the habits and tools that train our minds, the stories of those who turn despair into hope, the power of community, and the mysterious way pain can be transformed into personal power. If there is one thread tying all of these lessons together, it is this. You are stronger than you think. Your choice in every storm. When life gets hard, you have a choice. You can let the storm consume you, or you can stand tall and face it. Remember, storms don't last forever. They pass. But who you become while walking through them, that endures. Resilience is not about pretending you're invincible. It ain't about being real. It ain't about saying, yes, this hurts. Yes, this is hard, but I will not give up. I will not let this moment define me. I will rise again. That is resilience. That is strength. The power of small steps. You don't have to transform your life overnight. Strength is built one step at a time, one day at a time. Start small. Take 5 minutes each morning to breathe, reflect, and set your intention. Write down one thing you are grateful for even in the darkest days. Move your body. Walk, stretch, exercise. Remind yourself that you are alive and capable. Reach out to someone. A simple conversation can lift both you and them. Over time, these small acts accumulate. They become habits, and habits shape character. You are not alone. Perhaps the most important reminder is this. You are not walking through life in storms alone. Others have felt what you feel. Others have stood where you stand. And many are waiting, willing to walk beside you. Strength grows in community. Don't be afraid to lean on others, and don't underestimate how much your story might inspire them too. Transform your story. Right now, you might be carrying pain. You might be carrying fear. You might even feel broken, but brokenness is not the end. Broken pieces can be rearranged into something new, something beautiful. Your scars are proof that you have survived. And every scar can become a symbol of victory if you choose to see it that way. Remember, the world doesn't need perfect people. It needs real people who have faced hardship and yet still shine. The world needs your strength, your resilience, your story. Call to action. Stand tall. Start now. So here is my challenge to you. Don't wait for the right time or for the pain to magically disappear. The right time is now, today. If you've been holding back from healing, take one step toward it. If you been afraid to ask for help, reach out to someone you trust. If you've been carrying a dream but fear failure, take the first imperfect step. Life is too short to remain paralyzed by fear or pain. Strength is built in motion. Begin today. Closing words. Storms will come, pain will come, but so will growth, so will wisdom, and so will your chance to rise. As you leave this video, I want you to remember this simple truth. You have everything you need to stay strong when life gets hard. Not because life will ever be easy, but because you are capable, resilient, and stronger than any challenge ahead. Stand tall, keep walking, keep fighting, and let the storms of life refine you into the person you were always meant to become. This is your moment. Take it, live it, and never forget. The power to stay strong is already within you. Thanks for watching the video. If you found this content helpful, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe so you won't miss any of our upcoming videos. BookSnack is your go-to place for short and enjoyable book summaries. Got a book you go like us to cover next? Drop the title in the comments below. I will be reading all of them and picking the most requested ones. Thanks again for tuning in, and I will see you in the next video.